This
What would we
conference
do
will
without
now be
Mary?
recorded.
Okay, I'm going to start with myself. I'm here. Mary?
Mary Maslowski here.
John?
John Ketchum here.
Joe?
Joe McFarland here.
Donna?
It's you, Donna.
Oh, I'm here. Donna Kalanick here.
Robert?
Bob Doan here.
James?
James Donovan here.
Okay, we'll open the meeting. I'm going to start a little, I'm going to move the agenda just a little bit. There's some items I want to get in. I'm going to put this on old business.
Dave, real quick,
I'm sorry?
should I read the governor and
Yes.
rules?
Go ahead.
All right. Sorry, boring.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law C-30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Town of Harwich Community Preservation Committee on Wednesday, August 26, 2020 at 6 p.m. will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Am I going too fast? Specific information and general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the Town of Harwich website at www.harwich-ma.gov. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch the meeting may do so in the following manner on Channel 18 or by watching the simulcast, which isn't going to be simulcast tonight, I don't believe. No in-person attendance or members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite our best efforts, we will post on the Town of Harwich website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive recording of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. And those are the directions.
Okay, let's go to open forum for 1 minute. If there's anybody from the general public, Elaine, wish to speak at this time.
I may not be able to stay on too long because I have another meeting I have to get on to soon. My only thought was when you talk about electronic submission as opposed to paper submission, if you send it out electronically, people who want paper copies can just print it out.
Okay,
As opposed to saying, send me a paper copy. Send them the electronic and let them print it out. And then they can have it in their computers. They'll have it from whenever they want to look at it, and they can print out a paper copy, make their copies from that. That was my only thought.
okay. Anything else? We will take that under consideration. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
All right, moving on. Again, I'd like to skip down to old business. A discussion I had with the board last week pertaining to access to administration. And based on that information, I did contact the administrator, and I gave him and I gave Danielle my thoughts about our access to the facility. And Joe, through Danielle, declared that we have whatever access, whatever CPC needs for access, it has. And I'd like to thank both of them for that. And also, if we need to scan any large documents, whatever the case is, I'll contact, or rather, Jan can contact Danielle in the office. She will make arrangements to meet whatever your needs are, as far as that's concerned. So we're going to continue as usual. We'll have access to administration office. And the computers and the file space and whatever we need. So that's the first part of it. The second part of it is, and I'm going to read you the following. This is from Joe Powers, and it has to do with the warrant for September 2nd. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Council has reviewed the latest draft of the warrant up for revision 9 to be discussed this evening. That's with the Board of Selectmen. And has offered the following comments as far as the CPC articles are concerned. I have attached a version of that for the warrant for you. And this here goes. On Article 31, please include after the words grant agreements the following, including the grant agreement of a restriction if appropriate. Also, grant agreements under the CPA should be executed by the Board of Selectmen. The town's CPC bylaw does not authorize the CPC to execute grant agreements. Accordingly, I recommend that in the sentence authority grant agreements, you revise the sentence to replace Community Preservation Committee with Board of Selectmen. Article 31, 30, 33, 31, same as comments. Article 34 and 31, I don't know why it's duplicated on 31, same as comments. That's from Joe Powers, interim town administrator. Now, as chair of the CPC, I responded to that. Joe, it's okay with me based upon the recommendation of the town's attorney. I'll inform the CPC board at this Wednesday night's meeting. I hope the select board understands it's now a requirement of CPC, especially dealing with the housing trust, to have agreements in place. With the other non-town entities, it would be under the guy's good practices. So I wanted to put that forward first to inform you what was happening. Any comments on that information? We'll start with Mary. Mary, you're muted.
Thanks, David. So we've had this conversation for a couple of years since I've been on the board. I don't disagree with that. I think the Board of Selectmen is the contracting authority for the town. And I think that the housing authority needs to have a contract, and I think the third parties, non-town entities, absolutely need to have a contract. Whether the town itself, when you're talking a conservation commissioner or something like that is concerned, no, I don't think a contract is necessary. I think the application can speak for itself. But just my thoughts again.
Okay. John.
I don't have any comments. Seems reasonable to me.
Joe.
I'm with John. I think it's fine from what you read.
Okay, and what I will do is I will send that out, both those copies to the entire board. Donna,
Can I go?
go ahead. Yep.
Okay, your volume's going in and out, Dave. So the contracting authority being the Board of Selectmen is under your charter? Is that what I'm under? Is that what legal counsel said?
Pretty much.
Okay. And then, so the committee after town meeting, the full entering agreement responsibility would leave this committee and go to the Board of Selectmen.
And that's the issue I have.
Well, so just based on that, I mean, I think that there should be some
interim or some process between the CPC and the select board so that it's clear, you know, what the terms and condition, what the award is. I know like what we do is, and we don't have a charter, so our process is a little bit different. But we send award letters to all of the recipients that outline the terms prior to the grant agreement going into place. And we actually do that with the town entities too, so it's clear to everyone that what the terms are. So the town entities, for the most part, they just get the award letter. They don't necessarily get a grant agreement except under very specific conditions. And everybody else gets a grant agreement. So I just think, and I'm not sure we have to solve this today because we have other things that we need to do, but I think we should think about that in the long term and certainly after town meeting.
Okay, Robert.
Yeah, I agree with Donna that there needs to be some kind of interconnectivity with the select board to give what our terms are, whether we even write the initial thing, but then they can modify it or whatever. I don't know, but yeah, further discussion.
Right. James.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add for now anyway.
Okay. Again, this is just, I wanted to inform you folks of what we're doing and what we're going forward with. That actually caught me by surprise. I'm thankful that Joe sent me the email rather than finding it out when the warrant was actually written. So I appreciate that. And that's for further discussion. Okay. Now I have to angst out of that computer and go into a different one. All right, can we jump to approval of the minutes?
Those came awfully late, sort of forgot about them. We could hold them off if that's comfortable, more comfortable for everybody, or not. Just apologizing, in other words.
Well, let's see if we have is there a motion to approve?
I didn't get a chance to read them today.
All right, okay, hearing none, we'll move on. Jim, what's next on the agenda?
The new business discussion of how the CPC project applications will be submitted. How will the project applications be received at town hall is the first sub part.
Okay, so then it comes down to the number of applications we're going to ask to submit.
And the digital format.
Yeah, would anybody like to lead this conversation off? Go ahead, Don.
I actually kind of wrote some notes down after our last discussion, and is it okay if this is all one agenda item, just jump around within those sections a little bit?
Go ahead, we're going to discuss them all.
All right, I actually sort of wanted to start with whether or not we should move the date for the applications to be due, because I do think, going back to what we discussed the last time, the 10/1 date is really close to when town meeting's happening. And I think determining a date to start with will help us with the rest of the conversation in terms of how much time people have and what it looks like. I guess what I would propose would be either October 15th or November 1st. And I think that's a discussion point for the committee. Do you want me to stop there, or do you want to?
Yeah, let's address that. Go ahead, Mary.
So I agree with Donna, and I actually was going to suggest a November 1st start date as well, end date as well, so that we give people a little bit more time, because between town meeting and an election, I mean, actually coming November 3rd, there's going to be a lot of activity around every town hall department. So I think it'll give us a little bit more time to, and a little more separation between town meeting and the application deadline.
Okay. So, John,
Well, so taking an alternate view, my concern is that if we push back the deadline a month, we're going to be up against it reviewing the applications. And particularly since we're not going to do this in person with anybody. We haven't discussed how we're going to review the applications, how that's going to work on GoToMeeting, but we're going to have to do it on GoToMeeting as far as I can see, unless something dramatic happens in the next couple of months, which we should definitely not be planning on. I'm usually there, there's a scheduling problem anyway, even with the October 1st deadline. So I get your point, but what are you thinking, Donna or Mary, about how we're going to deal with the back end?
So, yeah, I agree with you, and I have on the list, will the virtual presentations, how will we handle that? I sort of see it as being the same format as the public hearing, because we want to allow the presenters to present, and we also want to allow public comment, right? So the only way to accomplish that is to go back to that format that we used for the public hearing. And I think how many a night are reasonable in the virtual format, I don't know if it's the same as it is doing it in person. And certainly scheduling's a problem. So I think if that's a concern of the committee, maybe we compromise to the 10/15 date so we get a little bit away from town meeting. But we don't go all the way to November 1st.
David,
Paul, Joe, I'm sorry.
that's okay. Having only done this for the first year and saw such a laborious process this already is in person, the whole virtual thing scares me just by what we're doing here today and how we try and get everyone together now. And I would be on John's team on that. I understand what Donna's and Mary is saying, but I wouldn't go too far past the 15th. I would still push them to the 1st. But if the consensus is the 15th, I'd be fine with that. I just remember us rushing really at the very end to get everything done. And to Donna's point, I think the virtual thing, we really don't know how that's all going to go. I think the public hearing piece of it is the thing that's going to be of concern to me. That everyone gets to speak.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wouldn't go pretty much past the 15th. The last question I had on this is digital versus hard copy. I'm just assuming that the digital software of this, John, or whomever, is easy to work through and submit. Is that a good assumption on my part?
Shall I respond to that?
Yeah.
Yeah, John.
Yeah, so where I thought we ended up last week with this was that we were going to strongly request digital submissions, not require them. That's point A. Point B, I suspect that most of the people who are submitting will be preparing their documents anyway on a computer. And
Okay.
most people use Word, but maybe there are other like Apple word processors or whatever. You can always save these things or print them to a PDF. So that's all going to be straightforward, except for the few people who might just be preparing things by hand one way or another without a computer. And then I think that's the other thing we discussed, is they can be scanned at the town offices or somewhere else, and that should also not be a problem, and it shouldn't be a big labor intensive thing, because my expectation is there won't be a lot of that.
So to finish that thought then, given what all you just said, I guess my question more to Donna or Mary, I might have missed it, but what are we pushing back to the 15th to the 1st because of our current predicament, or why would we move it back? What's the main reason?
I think the main reason for me is that the deadline is so close to town meeting.
Okay.
And it's, it's going to be very difficult, and particularly I'd like to get the word out more, that the CPC articles that are being heard at town meeting are the articles that would have been in the May town meeting, and that now we have a whole new application process for the next May town meeting. This is like, these are just, and I think just creating, and I'm fine with the 15th, a little bit of separation between that might help. And, I think whatever we decide tonight, it would be good to sort of memorialize it in, a memo or press release that can get put on the CPC page, maybe go in the Board of Selectmen's packet, just be sent out to the list that Jan emailed to in the first place. So that's my main concern, and I'll let Mary speak for herself on this.
So I agree with Donna. Same thing.
Mary, before you hold on for a second, please.
Yep.
James.
Yeah, I think it's reasonable to go with the 15th for the date, just to separate it from town meeting. And as far as this format goes, I've done it quite a bit with Conservation Commission and whatnot, and I think it just becomes even more important to keep comments concise and just keep things moving along. It's just easy to get fatigued with this format, and those are my comments.
Okay, Robert, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm still more leaning towards November 1st, just to give that extra time. I do feel that, I guess I do a lot of these meetings, so I feel somewhat confident that they'll work out okay. But I would lean towards the November 1st myself.
Mary, go ahead.
So I just have one follow-up on, regardless of what date we choose, are we going to allow the applicants to go to other boards and commissions after that date, whether that's the 15th or November 1st? Because none of us have seen anything yet, and Historic has a deadline for our next meeting is what, September 16th or something. So if people don't have applications together yet, an October 1st or an October 15th date may be impossible to get onto an underlying committee if somebody needs conservation support or historic support or planning board support. So that's the other kind of half of my question as far as the date's concerned. I was leaning towards November 1st. If consensus is October 15th, I'm fine with that. I'd just like us to give people a date like January 1st, if that's the case, for to submit any other letters of support from Historic or Planning or Board of Selectmen or whoever it may be.
Mary, you actually just changed my mind on that, because I've been through the process a few times with the rec, and in order to dot the I's and cross the T's, that takes time. It's going to take more time with the scheduling process that we're working on now, because there are difficulties. So if we have to extend the front end of this until the 1st, I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
And then we should, by right, we should extend in the back end to compensate. So maybe we ought to talk about both dates.
Like I said, David, I'm okay with either the 15th or the 1st. But I think we do need to extend the back date as well too. You know, maybe it's January 1st.
That's tough. We take January to review.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. If it's in by the start of January, at least we'd have that you know, yes, we're in favor, no, we're not in favor before we're voting. Is my only point.
Okay, I got you.
So,
Joe, go ahead.
So Mary, just to clarify, if I heard you correctly, what you're saying is you'd actually have 2 dates, or 1.5, if you will. So November 1st would be the day that you want them, well, we want them all in, but supporting documentation could come up until January 1st, right?
So I'm not saying supporting documentation like their main application. I'm saying support from
Right.
the Historic
Letters of
Commission or
support.
Planning Board or Zoning Board of Appeals. Like, for example, if REC has an application for Brooks Park, Brooks Park needs to go to both Historic and to the Planning Board on site plan review.
Oh,
So
okay.
for them to get that plan finalized, they're going to have to go to both boards and commissions to know where it stands. So in January 1st, we can say, hey, you know, where do you stand with your site plan review? Has planning board approved it? And hopefully they'll have time to have that accomplished so
Okay.
that we could approve a phase 5 at Brooks Park and feel confident that it's going to get, that we're putting money where the planning board is going to allow the design. So that's what I'm thinking of. I'm not thinking of kind of the meat of the application. I'm thinking more of board and committee support. You know, whether the Historic Commission is going to support more money going towards cleaning and restoring historic grave sites, or whether planning board is going to approve a Brooks Park site plan amendment.
Okay.
So, go ahead, Bob.
Just a quick thing, a little housekeeping. November 1st is a Sunday, so maybe we do October 30th. That'd be the Friday.
Mm-hmm.
November 1st falls on a,
Saturday.
yeah, well, that's not going to work.
Well, November 1st is a Sunday.
Sunday,
Sunday. So how about
the 30th.
October 30th? Yeah, because I have to be sitting at town hall.
So I'll move that we establish the deadline as Friday, October 30th, 2020, for the application documents with supporting documentation, very specific. I think the biggest thing is we have to be specific about what's allowed to come in after. Up until, and does anybody have a calendar? We should probably look at.
The 1st of January obviously is going to be a holiday. It turns out to be a Friday, but you shouldn't have that be a submission date because the town hall's closed.
So
The
it
1st of
should be,
January. So-
December 30th then, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, with supporting documentation from sending committees to be submitted no later than December 30th, 2020.
Second.
Could I offer one amendment?
Absolutely.
No, who
Can
seconded
we put
it?
4 p.m.? Can we put 4 p.m. as a deadline, just so that we aren't
that's
getting
what I'm
something at
looking at.
midnight?
Please,
Who
please.
seconded that
Excuse me,
motion?
town clerk.
I did.
Oh, thanks, Joe.
But Mary has a comment again, so.
All right, so there's an amendment on the floor, been seconded, discussion. It is going to be, the deadline is going to be 4 p.m., correct? In the motion. Is there anything else? Do we vote on this and you want a friendly amendment, or do you want to, how do you want to include it, Mary?
If Dawn is willing to accept the amendment, then it can be friendly. If she's not, then I don't care.
Totally accept it. Good amendment.
All right, so we vote? Are we ready? All right, roll call vote, starting with Mary,
Mary Maslowski, aye.
John,
John Ketchum, aye.
Joe,
Joe McFarland, aye.
Donna,
Donna Kellenick, aye.
Robert,
Robert Doan, aye.
James,
James Donovan, aye.
David Nixon, aye. Okay, so we've got that out of the way. What's next?
How it's going to be received at town hall?
Okay.
It sounds like you've kind of decided that you're
Yeah,
going
we've
to
already,
be for hard copy.
yeah, we've already talked about that, so that's pretty much, we're all set. What I still want to do with the board's permission is I still want hard copies. So how many do we do? What do we do? And I understand, I'm not trying to step on John's toes on this. I understand he wants to do everything electronically. And Elaine's right. We can do an electronic printing and then printing it out. I'm not putting that on the secretary. I want the applicants to submit at least, in my thought, 4 or 5. And that would be the administrator's office, the finance director's office, the town clerk's office, the library, and one other for Jan.
Jan. One, two,
Actually, I need 2 extras.
6 hard copies. Each application.
6.
Rob,
6.
Lost him.
John, would you like to say?
Well, you're not stepping on my toes, speaking with David. I understand we need paper copies. I'm not arguing against that at all. I think we all agreed last time anyway that digital copies are a good idea. If for no other reason, then we can put them all up on the website and anybody can have ready access to them who wants to go and look at the website. So then I think those 2 things, I don't think there's anything to discuss about. I think we all agree on those things. Then the question is what you're talking about, Dave, which is how many copies do we need? And I don't really know. 6, is 6 enough? I mean, does everybody, do all the committee members, are all the committee members happy with having a digital copy and not wanting a paper copy? If that's the case, then probably, the 6 that you have enumerated is the right number.
Mary,
I personally like a hard copy to write on. That's how I keep my notes, and that's how I work with these applications. And I understand the need, the want to reduce the waste of paper, but my only point is that the reason we always requested all these copies is so that these copies weren't at the town's expense, they were at the applicant's expense and not at our own expense. So I think that's the background behind it. I personally would prefer to have a hard copy. I can live with an electronic copy because I'm going to print it off, but I think I don't see a problem with asking the applicants to present X number of hard copies and a digital copy on a flash drive.
Donna,
I'm fine with an electronic copy. I think that the thumb drive is the best way to go. I think we, talked about that a little bit the last time. I think that any committee member that prefers to have the applications in paper, we should account for those in the number of copies. And we have to make it clear that as we discussed the last time, our preference is if they are able to submit an electronic copy, but if they're not able to, then they're going to have to submit the full copy set. Right?
Agreed.
Or not, or we'll just scan it if they're not able to and send it to the members who are okay getting it electronically. And my only other thing is I'd really like to see the applications on the website before we start taking them up so that the public has the ability to see them, because it's so challenging with the virtual format. I want to make sure the public's able to see what we're talking about.
Okay. James?
Yeah, I personally am fine with the digital copies. That's all.
Robert?
Yeah, I go with the digital copies also. I'll probably print them out. I'm concerned, how would we distribute the digital copies if they come in with a thumb drive? Unless we're ready to put them up on the website immediately, then of course we can just pull them off the website.
John?
If I have the thumb drives, it's very straightforward. Just get them uploaded. So, whatever delay there is a delay from when they get submitted to when me or somebody else plugs them into a computer and uploads them to the website. So I'm happy to be on hand, on October 30th to just collect those things and put them on the website. That's not a big deal.
They'll need to be renumbered first, right? Or you'll number them. Somebody will number them.
Numbering.
Very good.
Is the numbering arbitrary? I mean,
No.
Can I can help out.
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I like the way we did it with the category and then the number within the category. I think it was like when they came in. I don't know.
Yeah, it is. It's that.
Yeah.
It's very easy. I can help you though on the 30th.
Yeah,
Okay.
Jan
Or
and I
before.
talk about it and take care of it.
Okay. Joe?
I'm fine with the digital copy. I'm good.
Okay. Do we need to vote this?
I don't think so.
So how about a consensus? How many copies? We're up to,
If we count what people just said, in addition to the 8 in addition to the 6 we said in the beginning, 2 more of you bring us to 8 hard copies that should be asked for. Ending in a proposition. So it looks like we need 8 hard copies, and if that's okay with everyone.
so 8 hard copies of each article.
Each
Along,
application.
Application.
along with a thumb drive.
Right.
Okay. So from this point on, is there agreement upon that? We have a consensus from what I see. John, how fast can you get that information up on the CPC website?
Well, if I know what it is I'm writing, I can do it this evening. It's more a question of what exactly is the text. I mean, it's very straightforward for me to just type something in. So I'm typing in what we want. I mean, right. What we want on the website is the new deadline and what's required to be submitted, which is different from what's in the packet that's posted on the website.
Yeah, let's change the
Right.
app.
The application has to be changed.
Well, is that
So I'll do the change on the application and send that over to you, John.
okay? And then I can just post a notice, take down the notice that says we were having this meeting tonight. Then, well, it's not part of this conversation, but the other thing is, what are we saying about when the next meeting is? But I can put that up on the web. I can do that stuff as soon as I have it in hand.
Jen, would you be willing to help them out on that?
Yeah, we'll work together, eh?
Right.
Donna?
And is that something where, you know, we have an email list that I believe Jan sent out notice of our public hearing, that we can send this information out to those same people to let them know?
We probably can, but my bigger interest would be to get it on Channel 18. Get the information right into Jamie's hands. Joe? Would you be willing to sign up?
You know, what?
I just threw the hook.
Well,
If you have the time, that's all.
No, it's fine. Actually, this virtual thing is obviously makes it so much easier. And sometimes John's on to help us all. So, yeah, no, that's fine.
so are you asking Joe to do another interview? Is that what you're talking about?
He doesn't necessarily,
It's informational, right?
it's an information, right?
So
Can-
just,
Can they do a slide? Like,
Yeah.
you know how when there isn't programming on, they have different slides that
Yeah.
scroll through?
Yeah.
yeah, I think they could just do an announcement that's
Yeah.
text up on channel.
It's a thing that rolls all the time, Donnie. You're right.
Yeah.
So Jan, have you talked to Caleb or Jamie about other announcements to go on channel 18 in that format? I mean, I can call Caleb tomorrow and ask him to.
Well, we can do an announcement like we did for the public hearing and draft it and send it on to Caleb for channel, or Jamie for channel 18.
Yeah, that would be good. They can just put that up, right? Yep.
And then as far as Donna's request to send it to the past applicant recipients, do the same sort.
Right.
Okay, is that good?
That sounds good. James, do you have any input in any of this? Anything you'd like to discuss?
No, I don't really have anything to add to it.
Okay. If you do, just chime in. Okay, so we've covered that part of the meeting. We're going to be doing the well. I guess John and Jen are going to be covering my water for a while. Next thing, agenda. Jan, what else is on there?
Well, it kind of looks like you've taken care of the application and all of that, just on how to conduct the interviews with the applicants for the applications.
Okay, so that's setting up a time frame.
David, I think we covered that too, didn't we?
I don't know, it was Donna's point.
Donna had a good point about we're going to conduct the applications along the lines of the public hearing with the last meeting, and that there needs to be time for the applicant to give us a presentation, for us to ask questions, and for the general public to comment. So I think if we use a similar format to what we used last week, it should work.
All right, but
Okay.
just hold on for a second. the one thing as chair, thing I want to have happen is I want the applicants to have the discussion with the CPC board.
Correct.
So there won't be any public comment until the next meeting. Then there can be public comment. That's generally how I've run for the past 3 years because
Okay.
of the conflicts that have happened before. So it's important for us and it's important for the public to view what we're doing and how we establish the criteria from getting from A to B. That is the interaction between the board members and the applicant. If there's any questions that the public has, they can review the CPC minutes and they can come back in the public comment and ask their questions. Does that still seem reasonable to you folks? As the
So David, just one comment with that.
Go
I
ahead.
think I think if you're doing that, then we have to be very clear as to when each applicant is being scheduled and make sure that the applicant is available for the time slot and the date, and that the public is fully aware that their time to comment is going to be at the second meeting. I just think, it's such a difficult process that we're going through.
I absolutely agree with you. That's the difference between doing it in an electronic sphere of influence than doing when we're all in the room and the applicants are in the room and everybody else can be there to view it live. We don't have that process in place.
Well, we do have that process in place. Other people can log on and watch. It's what we're doing tonight.
Right, they can watch, but it's not the same thing as being there physically.
Well, but it is, David, because that's what all of our boards and commissions are doing. It's what planning board does.
I don't want to get into what all the boards are doing. I'm only interested in what the CPC is doing. Okay?
Right, but my
So
point is,
if you think it's unreasonable, we won't handle it in that direction. If you think it is reasonable, then we should go in that direction. I'm trying to
all
be.
I'm saying is that the general public has access to this meeting just like you or I do.
Right.
They can log in and you can control who talks because you're the chairman, but they still have access to it, whether it's being live broadcast or whether it's just on GoToMeeting.
Right, okay,
Does that make sense?
yes.
I just don't want the misconception out there that this isn't available to the public, because it is readily available to the public, whether we're
Yes, it is.
broadcast or not. Okay?
Yes, it is.
All right.
Donna,
So just going back to how we did it, or how it was chaired in the past, when we started reviewing applications, you would allow citizens speak, correct?
correct.
And then we'd move to reviewing the applications. So I think, my only request, if the public is not going to be able to comment while we're reviewing the application, is that we make sure we have the citizen speak portion of it prior to starting each of those meetings. And then the other thing is, I would request that, and because Mary's here, that we have 2 meetings a month, scheduled during the application review period, because obviously, going back to John's point, we're going to need those. And I think once we know how many applications we have, we can try to manage scheduling it so that there's enough appropriate time for each to review each one. And I know that the chair likes to bounce around in asking people so that you just don't like to go in the same order. But I think in the virtual format, it's better to go in the same order, just because it makes it easier to follow for everyone.
I will take that under consideration.
Thank you.
Joe,
No, I'm fine. I just, yeah, I understand what you're saying and how you want to do it. So I think we're gonna morph into this over time. So I'm good with it.
James?
Yeah. Again, I just think it's in this format even more so than normal. It's important to keep comments clear and concise and keep things moving. And that's all.
Okay. Bob?
Just to understand, the review or the presentations to us will be held in November and December. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's where we're headed.
Okay. So again, to be clear, we'll have, say, 4 presentations at a meeting that we can interact with the presenter. The public can watch, but they can't comment until the beginning of the next meeting. Then we'll have time for each topic, that public comment and questions. And then we move, the second part of the meeting is to review the next set of 4 or whatever.
That's correct.
And so at this point with Mary, we should probably be getting our dates logged in there into the system now for November and December.
I'm going to let Mary answer that question. Mary,
Yeah, I think that is true, Bob. The other problem is we typically, in years past, have not just done 2 meetings a month. We've done sometimes 2 meetings a week, depending on the volume of applications.
I would do a meeting a week.
So I think, I think we need to look at it and figure out what those weeks look like. I'm still doing the scheduling for November. December is not on the radar screen quite yet, except for a couple of random meetings. So, we have to be respectful of some of the permitting boards on Thursday, but there shouldn't be too many. So if Thursday night is the night that we want, then I think Thursday is probably a safer night for us than, say, a Tuesday or a Wednesday. And I think we'll know more once we actually see the volume that comes in. I mean, one year we had 16 applications, one year we had, 8. So.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Mary, is it too difficult at this point in time to block out Thursdays?
No, I'll put spaceholders in there on Thursdays, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. John, any comment?
No,
All right.
I'm just wondering when our meeting in September is going to be.
Okay, we're rolling back to that. Is there an answer to that? Mary?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear John's comment or question.
Have you set aside the second Thursday in September for us to have a meeting?
Look. So I do not have us on the second Thursday. Planning board is actually meeting that night with an advertised public hearing on the 10th. So we do not have, I don't have a date in for us for September.
Is there any other night that's available?
The 17th, there is a finance committee meeting on a placeholder, but we may be able to, they're going to have to be broadcast because it's leading up to town meeting. We can still be online like this and record. The 24th is 2 days before town meeting, so I don't know whether we want to do that or not.
No.
But that's That's pretty much what's left.
Let's bounce the finance committee. I don't have a problem with that.
Good luck.
Anybody else? Any recommendations?
I'm fine with the 17th.
How about anybody else?
Let's grab it while it's
I
still
think
available.
you have to get a date, like Mary's saying, get a date or a couple of dates solidified. I've seen this before where Jan puts that out to confirm that everyone can make it. But if I heard Mary correctly, the 17th might be a conflict because of finance. So is that right, Mary?
They'll be the ones that will be broadcast, yes. We can still have a meeting.
We can still have a meeting and not broadcast.
We can still have a meeting. We just won't be live broadcast on Channel 18.
Oh, I
It'll
got
be
it.
on tape.
That's fine.
Yeah, that's a good day for me.
Okay, everybody agree to that? And Mary, would you do whatever voodoo you do to
Yeah,
make that happen for us, please?
are we still sticking to a 6 o'clock meeting for everyone?
That's fine.
Anything else?
No.
No, no, I think that covers that. Jan, what's next on the agenda?
Anything, it looks like we've handled the website updates. Was there any other items?
I just want to review the changes I'm going to make to the website later this evening. I'm going to put an I'm going to remove the current announcement of this meeting tonight. I'm going to put an announcement that the deadline has been changed for submission to 4 p.m. on October 30th. And the new requirement for the submission is 8 hard copies plus 1 electronic copy on a thumb drive. And that's it. Am I missing anything?
Not that I can hear.
Okay.
Deadline.
Jan?
I don't know. I'm sorry.
You all
I
set?
don't, right, we are gonna have to, I'm gonna update the application deadline. And send you a new application so you can post that.
Right. I will post it when you send it.
Okay. And then I'll work out the press releases and all of that later, not today.
Will it be within the application that it says the supporting documentation will be due on no later than, okay, great. Yep,
Oh, it has to, yeah.
okay.
And we've done that before, so it's not
That's right. Yep.
so unique. I do have one question.
Go ahead, Jan.
When I send out the press releases to the past applicants, do you want me just to direct them to that, just link it right, include a link to the website page? Or should I send an application PDF in that email? What's everyone's
It tells me to
preference?
send an application, but you folks,
What?
Send a link. Let them,
Yeah.
Send the link, okay.
and the link won't be, the link won't be the same one that's there now. So I've got to send you the link to use. Once you send me the hard copy, I mean the PDF of the revised application package, I will upload it to the web page and send you the link to that new revised copy. Because if you,
Right. You and I will chat.
okay, we'll chat.
We'll
Right.
chat.
Okay.
All right. The next agenda item would be the next meeting's agenda points for the September meeting.
Well, we've just about covered that.
David, can I ask one question?
Go ahead, Mary.
I'm just looking at the calendars while I'm sitting here, and November, I'm wondering if we should try and plan the 5th and the 12th, which are Thursday nights. The 19th is planning board because of I'm guessing Thanksgiving is the 26th this year for that Thursday, so planning board had to move it up a week. But if I'm looking at this correctly, we could try and book the 5th and the 12th in November. And then there's December 3rd, December 10th, and December 17th.
Well, I'm all for booking the 5th and the 12th of November.
All right.
What about the rest of the board members? Joe,
That's good.
James? Robert? Lost Robert. Donna?
I have an earlier meeting of Housing Trust, so I might just have to join you a few minutes late, but I think you should go ahead and book the dates that are available.
Okay, thank you. Mary?
They both look like they work for me at this point. I can't do the 19th because I have the conflict with planning board, so.
Okay. Bob, you back?
Yeah, I'm back.
5th and the 12th, November?
Yeah. Yep.
And John?
Yep, that's fine.
Okay, we got that settled. Now, let's go into December, Mary?
So I'm looking, we've got essentially 3 Thursdays in December. There's the 3rd, the 10th, the 17th. Christmas falls on a Thursday, and of course New Year's falls on the 31st. So
Yeah. Yep. How does everybody feel about the 3rd, the 10th, and the 17th?
Yeah, that's fine.
Joe, yes? James?
I'm not entirely sure I could make all 3 of those, but I will make an effort.
Okay, fair enough. Donna?
Same for me, at least one of those I'd be late to, but I'll make an effort.
Okay.
and we may not need all of them. I mean, it may come down to the fact that, we've had our initial discussions and we don't need to do much more until we start deliberating in January. So we may be able to cancel some of them at some point.
Right, but at least it's nice to have those on the docket. That's insurance. Okay, so we'll go with the 3rd, the 10th, and the 17th. Is that okay, Mary?
Works for me.
All right. That's the consensus.
Which way? This way? Dave, I have a question.
Good.
Okay, so looks like we're requesting September, November, and December dates. The October 8th meeting, did you all want to discuss that, Dave?
Mary, how's that look?
That's fine. I have that in already.
Okay. John? Okay. Donna? I read lips well, John. Donna?
Same thing, have a housing trust meeting that night, so I'll be late getting here.
Okay, not a problem. Robert?
I'm okay. Okay.
James,
Okay with me.
Joe?
Yeah.
Okay, then the 8th it is.
Okay, we've got a calendar.
All right, now, under new business, or is there anything else that any one of the board members would like for next agenda, for the next agenda? Suggestions, recommendations, other than we're going to have a full agenda anyway, but no, hearing none?
No,
Are
Donna.
we- Donna, go ahead.
Are you gonna have town meeting articles as an agenda item on there?
Would you like that? I will do that.
Well, I know we've had this discussion a couple of times about a few of the town meeting items. It's not the full amount in the warrant, and we were not able to get that change. So, and I know that typically you have the presenters present them, but and I know we want town meeting to be brief. I just don't know if we want to address that or not. It's probably, I'm the only one that has a sticking point on this.
We can address it at the next board meeting.
Okay,
That's
Thank you.
more than reasonable. Again, now that you said that, I would have sent Jan an email, but would you again reach out to the present applicants and let them all know that they need to be at town meeting to speak to their.
okay.
Okay. And again,
I mean, if you're waiting for a response, I don't have a problem doing that.
okay, not a problem. And again, to the general public, the applicants are the ones asking the town, asking the taxpayers of the town for money to take whatever the applicants want. So there's a question from any taxpayer in this town, the applicant of that application should be there for that application. That's it, moving on. Is there anything else? All right, can we have a vote?
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Second. Okay, all those in favor? Roll call.
Roll call.
John,
aye, John Ketchum.
Mary. Donna,
And thank you both, John and Jan, for your work on this.
yeah. Robert,
Aye.
James,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
and David says aye. Good night, though, folks. Thank you very much for your time and your effort.
Good night.